Hey, you want to see something really scary?
What's your favorite scary movie?
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
What was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
What's blood for, if not for shedding?
Welcome to Fright Night.
Welcome back to Jump Scare. I'm Betty.
And I'm Chad.
This week we're covering 1982's Visiting Hours.
In this hospital, your next visit may be your last.
All visitors, please leave the hospital. Dr. Len on...
Visiting Hours, so frightening you may never recover. Starring Lee Grant, William Shatner, Linda Purl.
So, 1 year after Halloween 2.
Not even a full year.
Not even a full year, you're right, because it came out October 30th, Halloween 2, and this came out...
Sometime in February is when they first started doing premieres of it. Yeah, and it premiered in Wichita, Kansas, I think, so which is, kind of funny considering that the original Halloween had its premiere in Kansas City. I'm not sure where Halloween 2 first premiered, but I'm sure it was probably someplace like that. And it's always kind of funny when it's, movies kind of shadow each other like that,
Yeah, or like how people have kind of similar ideas.
Yeah.
And then they come out so close together. This film is set in a hospital. And we're continuing the hospital horror this month with this film. Michael Ironside is in it, a younger Michael Ironside.
Surprise, he's the killer.
Linda Purl is in it, and she would probably be most recognizable to be Pam's mom from The Office.
Yep.
Which, when you see her in this film, after, that's all I see now, you can see Pam in her. It was a good casting. It was good casting on their part for The Office, for her to be Pam's mom. And Lee Grant is also in it. And, we can't forget William Shatner.
Yeah. The same year that Star Trek II came out, he was still not quite sure if that Star Trek movie was going to be a hit, so he had to be in some other things too.
Now, even though this movie was released in the early 80s, it is drenched in the 70s. Because really, when you enter a new decade, it really doesn't get its own identity until the mids. And
so you start to hit 84, 85 before it starts to get going good.
So from 80 to 82, we're still living in the 70s life. Now, this film is a Canadian film. Yay, Canada. And...
which explains Michael Ironside and William Shatner.
Exactly. Also explains the very unique houses in this. What I found funny about the housing in this movie was you enter the house and it's all glass. It's a glass door and there's windows adjacent, by the door. And then you're in a little entry area. And then you walk forward and there's another glass door to get into the house. And one would think it's the foyer or it's, the entry area where you would take, there's a certain name, I forgot the name of it, when you were put your snow boots and shit like that.
Mudroom. A
mudroom, right? But this is not a mudroom. It's literally enough, maybe 3 people would be able to fit in the first area, of coming into the house. And it was person coming in, opening door after door. It was a fucking puzzle. And then the house was backwards. It was you entered, but there was the kitchen on the side, but it looked like it was in the back of the house. The layout is just very unique. And a lot of indoor-outdoor. Not indoor-outdoor. A Jack and Jill setup. And not only Jack and Jill, like every other door led to another room.
Yeah.
So, which plays well in this kind of scenario, because when you have a killer on the loose, you know, and they're breaking into houses, it's probably best to have that kind of a house. Because if you go into a bedroom and that's it, there's nothing but window and a closet, your ass is dead.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're throwing yourself out the window. But if you have a fucking Jack and Jill, you go into the bedroom, you go to the bathroom, that leads into the next bedroom, that leads down into the fucking hallway, and you get to escape. So that made it a little more convenient for the people that are trying to...
Point, yeah.
Yeah, for Lee Grant, for sure. Now, this movie, we have a misogynistic, like...
Racist.
I mean, everything you can think of. And this man just hated everything.
Every kind of ism. He's got sexism, racism. He's got it all. And, you know, it's kind of like today. He's a, you know, racist, misogynist asshole who doesn't like a TV reporter that's reporting on a rape case. And, you know, the other reporter's obviously taking the side of the woman and pointing out, like, all the, like, flaws and the, like, you know...
In the case
and all this, and that there's going to be a new lawyer appointed and all this, and he doesn't like that at all.
And not only that, the cherry on top of that is this reporter is also known to have a strong opinion on violence overall and how women should be able to defend themselves, but people in general, no matter who they are, should be able to defend themselves. Via like violent act, because the whole thing was like she's even questioned about it after she's attacked, about how did she feel about being attacked, and you know, on her stance of like how she doesn't perpetuate violence, but obviously she has to defend herself,
she had to fight back. Yeah.
So
because that's what it was. I said it was like the woman. I think she had been raped and then she had killed her husband.
Yes.
In self-defense. That's what it was.
It was one of those doozies.
Yeah, and of course they were like, well, you know, he didn't really deserve it. She just is an evil woman.
Yeah,
just being a man killer and a man hater.
Yeah.
And man, it was still the late 70s, so that was a hard case to win, I'm sure.
Which I'm like, you know what? Let's not.
Yeah. So Lee Grant is the reporter that's causing all these waves by, you know, sticking up for women's rights and wanting them to have rights and be treated like people. That's a controversial statement for the 70s and early 80s. And
just people in general. I do really want to press upon that, because there is one part in the movie where she is having a discussion. And she does state it's not only a woman thing, it's a people thing. People should treat one another kindly and just respect one another and treat one another as human beings. Because that was her like big thing. But in this case, it's very hard to see what's his face's character be a human being. He's a fucking Ironside. Monster. Michael Ironside is a monster. And I don't know if, you know... Mr. What's his face, my favorite More Human Than Human guy, if he saw this movie and was like, you know what, this is exactly what I'm going to redo Halloween as, Rob Zombie, because he literally went to the books on this one with the Psychology 101. Why is he misogynistic? Why is he this? Why is he that? Because it's his mom. The relationship that he saw, that he grew up with, you know, the mom was terrible and she did terrible things, and, you know, it's all her fault. And then he becomes a fucking psycho because he has several different flashbacks of him as a child where his dad...
Who is an asshole.
And he's trying to, at that time, that was just like the dad just trying to get, you know, just trying to be with his wife. But essentially it is rape, because she doesn't want to have sex. She's just trying to like fucking make some pasta or whatever the hell. And he's ripping her clothes off in the damn, you know, he's drunk and being disgusting and trying to like have sex with her in the middle of the kitchen. And she doesn't want to do it. She's fucking tired of his shit. And she fucking throws the boiling ass hot oil in his fucking face and damages his face. And I'm going to assume she just left him. She left her son behind with this psycho. And, you know, the dad had to be, we're going to assume, in some kind of care because in the present, he's taking care of his dad in like a home. Yeah. And his his face is all fucked up.
Oh, yeah, his dad's bad looking.
So the women hate stems from the hate that he has for his mom. Even though, and obviously he's a child, but even though she was defending herself. Yeah. You know. So
that's where you have, like I said, Lee Grant's the reporter, and she's, you know, reporting all this kind of stuff. I'm trying to think what her name was. Her name was Deborah Balin. I was trying to remember that. And William Shatner is her intrepid producer,
who is sprinkled throughout the film. Now, I don't know if he was filming the Star Trek at the same time as this movie.
Probably. I feel like this is one of those things where he came in and filmed all of his scenes in a day, probably, because most of his stuff is right at the beginning with her, and then later on at the end, he shows up again. He's sprinkled her a couple of times, and they could have done all that in a couple of days. You know?
I feel like he's in the movie every 20 to 25 minutes. Yeah. He shows up for a couple of minutes in his, and this is where I'm like, it's the 70s, in his corduroy / velvet / ensembles with the turtlenecks and the fucking brown like blazer.
Look, I can tell you almost for a fact somebody wore that same outfit in one of the Star Trek movies, okay? And it was like futuristic clothing in that. But it's just 70s clothes that they thought looked futuristic.
Man, well, you know, it was like the Professor look, but without the pads, the things on the elbows.
I love it too. Whenever you see Shatner in things and see him walking around in like a completely blue suit, or like there's a Columbo episode where he's in a blue jumpsuit, and you're like, did they see that and think when they were doing Halloween, you know, if we just put the mask with that would be perfect.
I can't. Well,
he's a perfect killer right here. All we gotta do is just dye his hair a little bit, make him a little paler in the face.
So, you know, now that you say that, even though we did mention Halloween 2 at the beginning of the movie, now I'm like, oh, so here was William Shatner walking around a hospital, and then his face happened to be walking around another hospital.
So Shatner's in 2 hospital movies right back to back, really.
Guest starring William Shatner's face.
So Linda, you know, Deborah Balin, played by Linda Purl, Lee Grant, she does this report. She goes home that night, and she's mad as hell because the housekeeper has not cleaned up. She has not done all this stuff.
She told that housekeeper she wanted all these fucking cups to be put away and all that shit to be cleaned up. And when she came home, that shit was not done. And she was very, very unsettled by that.
So she's going through this giant house that she has. I always love the movies and TV shows where the reporters have giant homes. Oh, I'm a TV reporter on a local station. I own a 17-bedroom mansion. Because that was what people thought, that all the TV reporters were super rich, you know?
Yeah. Well,
so that's when she finds Michael Ironside in the house, naked, wearing all her jewelry.
Was he naked? He wasn't naked. I think he was wearing like a kimono. Nevertheless.
No, he came out naked. They were just very careful not to show anything. Because he had no shirt, no pants. You could see he was naked in a couple of scenes, but they just didn't show anything.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't recall that at all. I do remember him wearing some pearl earrings, and he is wearing jewelry, which
he had it all. He had all of her necklaces.
Yeah,
he had earrings, a nose. He clipped an earring in his nose. He did everything.
Yeah, that part of the film bothered me. And
what was that about?
And for those of you, if you would watch this film, you may or may not be triggered by that. What bothered me about that is this is the first time we're seeing the character, right? Well, not the first time, actually. We do see him, like, get ready, right?
Yeah, he's kind of going over there, and you get the idea that, like, okay, this guy's going over there to do, but you don't know exactly what the hell he's going to do.
Then he's going to pop up in all this woman's jewelry, we never see him again in woman's clothing or jewelry for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, why did he do that?
I don't know. For me, personally, I think that maybe they were trying to insinuate that he wasn't well in the head right off, and because how could a man want to be dressed as a woman? Obviously he has to be insane. which that I do have an issue with. I understand, obviously, this is 1982. Let's say it was filmed in 1981. So, of course, that is a thought that most of the world had at that time. But it was just so out of place for the film, because we never go into that ever again. He never displays any kind of that. He doesn't do that ever again.
Now, he does wear an interesting shirt later. I've never seen the leather zip-up tank top on anyone before.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. That was another, like I don't even know. The outfit was very, very interesting, to say the least. They had him some very interesting outfits, and I want to say, like, was he uncomfortable in these outfits? Because they were very form-fitting, and he did not seem like a guy that would be wearing form-fitting clothes. He did not have the physique for this.
He's not a super in shape kind of guy.
No, he's a normal dude.
He's just a normal guy
from the 80s, you know.
Like, okay.
That was a very interesting choice for him. And also, I need to know, where did he buy that? Where did he go to buy this shirt? Because that's not a shirt that you would find in, like, the Five and Dime.
Yeah, that's not off the rack in 1980.
No, that's like a specific, like, he went to, like, a bondage store.
Do they have bondage stores in Canada?
They sure do.
I'm guessing they do.
So, yes, he's running around the streets with his very unique outfits.
He attacks her, but, you know, of course it's 1980, so he's had the foresight to cut all the landlines. That way she can't call for help. But she manages to yell for help to her neighbors, who actually come over and help her. And she gets, he doesn't get a chance to kill her. So the rest of the movie is spent with him trying to sneak into the hospital to get a chance to kill her. So let me tell you, they have some fucking inept security at this hospital.
First, everyone should be fired. And the whole county, the whole police, all the police departments within that county defunded immediately. And not only that,
defund them and rehire some cops who know. So you're a woman who's just been assaulted in your home. Do we put a guard on your door? Nah, it's fine. Just the regular hospital security will be fine.
No, because no one even locked the door. The doors were still unlocked. There's a time people not even locked their doors at that time, especially in Canada. Like, that was like, oh, willy-nilly. Like,
yeah, it's just crazy. They were the worst.
And I actually, now that I say that, I take that back, because the women in the film did lock the door. Remember, I just said at the beginning that all they did was open one door to get into another door.
That's right. She did,
and they did lock the doors.
Michael Ironside just happened to come in through the window that she may or may not have left open to let her parrot breathe.
Michael Ironside was getting in. Let me tell you, one, he went into the wrong, like, being a psycho slasher. Just what a waste, because he was so fucking determined. I mean, man, I've never seen someone that wasn't a complete psycho like Michael. Like, just there's not even a person in that body, right? He's just walking soulless fucking monster. This was a calculating, very intelligent, like, the shit that he was able to pull security wise. He found where the tunnel connected to the hospital. He knew where the damn freaking laundry area was, and that's how he was able to steal the uniforms for the EMTs and the doctors. I mean, he did all kinds of crazy shit, and he was a florist at one point.
Yeah,
like,
bringing in the flowers to her, and they're just like, oh yeah, so where is the woman that someone just tried to kill her? Oh, she's on floor 9, room 31. Go on up there, flower guy.
Yeah.
Who looks fucking scary. I mean, okay, first of all,
I'm telling you, yes, if Michael Ironside's I don't care if he had fucking an orchid, okay? I don't care what kind of flowers he's holding. Yeah. He's coming towards me,
carrying flowers, I'm going to be afraid.
And he's looking for the woman that was just, like, assaulted. No, bitch. We're going to have the police come down and bring these flowers up for her.
Yeah,
like, you stay here.
We're going to need to talk to you for a minute, sir.
Yeah.
I need you to step over here. But yeah, that'd be the only other thing that'd be scarier would be what Michael Berryman bringing you flowers.
Michael Berryman. Or Michael Berryman wearing Michael Ironside's leather vest shirt.
Bring it into
Okay, that would be fucking horrifying. No offense to Michael Berryman. But yes, that would be very scary.
Yeah, and my other favorite part of this movie is where later on, the police know it's Michael Ironside. They're coming to his house. So what does Michael Ironside do? He deliberately injures his arm and calls an ambulance to come pick him up and take him to the hospital.
Because that's the best way to get into the hospital is to be fucking injured. And don't forget that he also pumped a whole bunch of crazy pills, which we're assuming were
pain pills
to help with the pain. Because I thought it was to get his stomach pumped. He was trying to kill himself or trying to make himself sick to get into the hospital.
No,
but
he just took a whole handful of whatever the hell kind of, because this was back before the Tylenol murders, so you could still have capsules full of things. So he took a whole handful of capsules and then just smashes the beer bottle and rubs his arm around in it.
Trigger alert, trigger.
And man, that was a gnarly effect on his arm with all the broken glass on it. They did a great job on that.
If you have that weird, what is it, tropo
with fear of holes?
Yeah, the whole fearing thing. Do not look at that scene. I was screaming, okay, because it looked so gnarly and so real. It was disgusting.
Yeah, it was a great effect.
It was an actual
and then good effect. He's all fucked up and all this, and then they take him to the hospital and they're like, "You're fine. Here's a bandage. They're like, just lay down, rest for a little while." And then of course he's up immediately out murdering people again.
Yeah, he sure. There were several.
Unfortunately, while she's in the hospital, the nurse taking care of her and doing a great job is Linda Purl, the one who would eventually play Pam's mom in The Office. And she happens to make the mistake of being out on the phone when he's doing one of his murder sprees through the hospital. He overhears her saying, "Ugh, this guy's such a fucking psycho. I hope they catch him and throw the book at him." And he's like, "Oh, do you, bitch?" So then he just goes to her house to try and kill her because she dared to speak up against him.
Yeah. Now, I have to say that this film felt like it was 4 hours long. It was very long. Now, runtime, I think is like an hour and 43 minutes or something insane.
Yeah, it's not that long of a movie, but it's a very slow-paced movie.
It's like molasses. But a lot of stuff happens, but it just happens, it's an hour and 45 minutes, but it happens very slowly. That I did not care for. I think that maybe the editing could have been better. The pacing could have been a lot better.
There was a lot of things that could have been trimmed down because we didn't necessarily need to see him going through every little machination that he went through to get into the hospital. Those scenes could have been shortened a lot.
Also, we didn't need to see the multiple scenes of him having his flashbacks with his relationship. There was a weird, and I don't know what was going on there, and I really felt uncomfortable. Because I didn't know where they were going with that, but there's a scene where he's a child and his father is on top of him, in the yard, and he's tickling him and trying to force him to drink beer, and he kind of has tackled down, and they're giggling and it was weird. I was like, I don't know, what are they insinuating here? Did the dad do some nefarious things to his poor child? Ugh, what the hell is that about? We could have done without that because that did not add anything. That just gave me icky feelings. And then, and then the whole
where Michael Ironside picks up the woman at the cafe.
Well, see, okay, that part they could have shortened they could have shortened that whole thing from the moment where he picks her up at the diner because she is very important later on to the film.
Well, this is one of those things where they could have cut the whole scene where they're making eyes at each other across the tables at the diner.
Yeah.
It could have just started with him bringing her home at the apartment,
Yeah,
we didn't need to see their whole, meet cute.
Yeah. The meat...
or their meat creep, as it were.
So, okay, I agree and disagree. That part could have been shortened. The important thing in that scene not only was that, the whole meat creep thing was that you see that she's actually in some kind of gang or she's with other dudes around her that are her friends, but they're at that time frame, when you look at them, they're a little gang, like, club, like, group. They're up to no good, these people. Because they're hoodlums. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. Because later on, the hoodlums ransack his apartment.
Yeah.
And they play a role with her in the whole capturing him and identifying him.
Yeah.
So, yes and no, but they could have shortened it. They could have, like you said, the whole googly eyes back and forth. We could have cut at least like 5 to 7 minutes from that. A little bit here, a little bit there. And like you said, his whole thing of how he's getting into the hospital, we didn't need to see every single thing that he came up with. You know, he's not, now if this was a fucking spy movie, then yes, we need to see like, oh, how good is this fucking guy being a spy / assassin? But he wasn't. I like the title of the film.
It's got a great poster.
It has a great poster. The title of the film, I like it and I dislike it because I'm like, okay, well, the visiting hours, he was there at a lot of the times where it wasn't visiting hours. Okay, so don't lie to me and tell me that he's just getting in during the visiting hours, because we all know that's not true, for those of you that have seen the film. But nevertheless, the film, it has its issues here and there, but it was a good watch. I enjoyed it for the most part. It's one of those, I'll never see it again, ever. But, and not because it was bad, but like I said, the pacing could have been better. And I already know what happens. It's not something I need to revisit, and it's not something that I've never seen before. Like I said, if you've seen any kind of slasher, there's going to be a place where he's going to have to go and terrorize these people, especially if they're stuck in a common place. And there's so many films, like there's so many other films with hospital horror and all kinds of aspects. I mean, you have The Void, you have some other movies that I can't think of right now, but that was the first one that came into my mind.
Oh, I haven't seen that one in a long time.
Yeah, that movie's fucking nuts. But Hellraiser 2.
Yeah.
Hospital horror, that's the hospital horror. Like, I'm going to some other creepy ass fucking whatever dimension, and there's that scene, not to take away from visiting hours, but we probably never, did we cover Hellraiser 2? No, okay. That scene where the doctor has been altered in this creepy dimension where he has like the hand on top of his head and he's like floating because he's a creepy doctor, like he's what's her face's boyfriend or whatever. Horrifying. Like, that shit gave me fucking nightmares. To this day, it's creepy as hell. I don't like doctors.
Much less hell doctors.
Hell doctors that are gonna fucking do weird like shit to me. No, thank you. Okay? Let's burn the fucking box and smash it to fucking bits, because I'm not going back in there. Like, fuck that. I give this film 2.5 knives.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd give it 2.5 knives too. It's good. And this is the one I think we mentioned this when we were watching it. This would be one that would be prime for a remake.
Oh, for sure. Yes, yes.
Especially with the political climate today of everybody, attacking people for their crazy view,
Yes.
They're like, oh, I've got a crazy view and you need to represent flat earth people. So you didn't represent the flat earthers. I'm going to attack, craziness. Now, I forgot to mention at the beginning, but this movie was written by a guy named Brian Taggart, who has written some other horror movies of note that you would have heard of. Like, he wrote Poltergeist 3. He wrote The Of Unknown Origin, which is my favorite Peter Weller versus a giant rat movie. There's only one movie in that genre, but it's still my favorite. He also wrote for a lot of TV shows, and he wrote The Omen Part 4, the one where the made-for-TV movie, when they were like, maybe we could make this into a TV show. Turns out you can't. P.S. They forgot to tell the people in the late 2000s about that too, because they tried that again.
Yeah, I never saw that, and I got real confused, and I'm gonna have to do a minimal research about the whole Omen thing, because man, I could have freaking sworn the whole Sam Neill Omen thing was more than just one movie.
No, it was just the one.
I thought there were multiple, the rise of him being president, man, but the movie's so good though. I really enjoy that movie. But yeah, I had more like sequels in my mind where dealing with just the Sam Neill, the grown up Damien. But Poltergeist 3, man, I know a lot of people hate that movie, and I don't. I have seen it so many times.
Like, in-camera effects done in that movie.
So many, and you know, it's a lot of flack, you know, getting in. Unfortunately, you know, you have Heather O'Rourke that did not make it throughout the whole movie. She passed away like halfway, so
yeah,
that's unfortunate.
And that's why they had to re-edit a lot of things and make it. That's why it seems a little weird.
Yeah, but the story, I like the story. So yes, kudos to him. I heard
an interview with the director of that Poltergeist 3 where they said he didn't want to finish it. He just wanted to, you know, just let it go. But they told him either you're going to finish it or somebody else is. What do you want to do? And he was like, well, I guess if it has to be finished, I'll be the one to finish it.
Yeah, how, like, I don't know. That's just weird.
That would suck to have to go, be forced to do that when you just don't want to.
Yeah, that, but then it's like you don't want someone else to do it either, especially you put all the work into it, and it's just like, I guess the whole thing would like, so you have this cult person, right, that got into the whatever spirit world, and he's trying to bring back all his disciples or whatever, and she's like one of the souls, and he's trying to regain her, but then in reality, like, this illness is trying to make her into a spirit again, like a soul just floating around. I don't know, the whole thing is just sad and terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's like her last movie, you know, like, oh, yeah. So
it just sucks all around. So many people from that movie died. That just, even the guy that played Reverend Cain died before the third movie came out. They had to recast him.
Yeah. That's why, like, when people are like, oh, he looks so scary in Poltergeist 2, it was like, yeah, well, he was dying of cancer, so that wasn't like special effects makeup. Like, that was just how he looked. When he comes from the rain and he's singing his creepy song. Like, the song obviously adds to it, and then he had this whole outfit. God. But, I mean, jeez, Louise. The 80s, man. That's what I gotta say, the 80s.
Some iconic villains in the 80s, man.
Crazy times. Yeah. So, yeah, he wrote those, huh? That's interesting. I need to see this Omen 4 movie because, made-for-TV movie. We need to, because I'm sure I'm curious to see what.
Well, this time, Damien's a girl.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, it has to be a girl now at this point, right? Like, you already had a boy, all these things. Is her name Damiana? Is it Diana?
I think it's Delilah or Delisle. Like, a little bit like Belial, but it's Delisle.
Oh, no. They didn't do that. Yeah, no.
They did that. Of course they did that.
Well, this wraps up our discussion about visiting hours. Thank you for visiting our podcast. Hey. Next month is, who knows what's going to happen next month, because it is my birthday month. Woo, 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 woo. I think I'll be weird and choose 2 movies that I despise and then rip them a new asshole. That's where I'm not going to choose movies I love. I'm just going to choose movies I fucking hate.
Or you should just choose movies you've never seen and you finally get around to them on your birthday month.
I mean, that doesn't seem as fun, though. I feel like that seems like more work on my part. I'm trying to relax. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a surprise for everyone involved. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Jump Scare, the horror podcast. Stay tuned to the horror.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.